Hello, friends, followers, and fellow 3D enthusiasts. Welcome to another edition of Do You Bamboo? In this episode, we'll be looking at the Bambu Labs handy app. If you have a Bambu Labs printer, you should be familiar with registering your printer to your Bambu Labs account when it first arrived using this particular application. So what are these fingertip activities that benefit Bambu Lab printer owners? Well, the one that intimidated me the most was printing from the app. I thought, it couldn't be that good. It's just a phone app. But Bamboo Studio is where all the settings and the action is and all the customizations, right? I didn't have a lot of filament at the time, and I didn't want to waste it either. But forging ahead, I finally took the plunge and decided to give it a try. And to my surprise, it's quite feature-rich. So let's dive in. Head on over here and pick up the trusty old iPhone, and this is not my regular iPhone. This is what I'm using specifically for this purpose, and we're going to hit the Bamboo Handy app. If you've used the Handy app before, you're familiar with this screen. This is Maker World, where you can find all these free files to download and print, and you can do it directly from your phone. And that's what makes this Handy app so handy. You know, no pun intended, but kind of really. I'm a dad, so it's a dad joke. Who knows? But anyway, when we're looking at this, we have different ways of searching for what it is we want to look at and print. Now, I like to do functional prints, and I actually have a need for a build plate cleaner, so I'm going to hit that little magnifier glass at the top and type in build plate cleaner. Cleanie. I don't have any employees, so it's a build plate cleaner. So we have build plate cleaners. Now, the one that I actually like is this last one here, the build plate cleaner tool. So I'm going to tap that one. I've used this one in the past, and I like it from the others because it does have a bigger cleaning surface. Now you can scroll through and see all the videos and all the little ways you can use it. And this is actually really easy to put together. But the thing I like about it is it does come with this little holder tray. Now, as we're looking here, there are things that are important like this. That means that as a Maker World exclusive, you're only going to be able to find this particular model on Maker World. That's kind of important, but also kind of cool because it shows people are responding to putting up their prints. Now you can click on the More button and get more than you probably really want, but some people like these things, and it kind of gives you an interesting idea of what people have done. Now, when we get to the bottom of this right here, you really need to pay close attention to. That is the license. Now, MakerWorld has different licenses that are chosen by the model maker. And this one says standard digital file license. So what does that mean? So if you click on it, you're going to see what it means. And the object, this is really important. The object may not be used without permission in any way whatsoever in which you charge money or collect fees. Now, I'm not a lawyer and can't give you legal advice, but the way I interpret this is simply, this is a model you can download and print for personal use only. Like, you can't download it and give it as party favors, things like that. So it's kind of restrictive, but they open the door with saying, hey, you can get permission. So you can contact the person who made the file and say, hey, I'd like to use it in this manner, and they can say yes or no. But what MakerWorld has actually started doing is implementing a commercial membership. So you can pay a little bit extra, and makers who are uploading their files can participate this on a voluntary basis, and that gives you a commercial license to sell the prints, which is kind of cool. But then also, if you want to give it away, it kind of opens the door for that as well. But now we have the assembly guide, which is kind of interesting because this is a pretty simple part and don't really need to assemble much. So let's look at prepare to print. That's this button right down here, which is obvious. Now, this is kind of cool. It says select a print profile. So you select the profile for your particular printer. Too many P's in a row. And I have a P1S, which is kind of cool because it's already selected. So it's right there. Now you can see on the profile, it's going to take 3 hours, 88 grams, one plate, 0.4 millimeter nozzle, all these other kind of good things. And it's going to tell you this again. In PLA, it's 88 grams. All right, cool. Print plates, one plate. So if you want to see what's on there, you can click right there, and it will take you to the print plate in a very tiny little graphic that doesn't really tell you much, but it does give you some important information that you already have up front, which is the 3 hours of print time with a 0.4 millimeter nozzle, and it's going to take up 88 grams of filament. Important information if you're trying to keep track of your filament and the cost and prices, etc., things like that. Gives you rating details, also tells you that it has a 0.16 millimeter layer height. Now, that also means that normally things are printed at 0.2, so this could probably take a little longer, but if you want to do something different later on in the settings, you can do that. It might be faster, but might not look as clean and fit together as much as it would using the designer's recommended settings. It also prints without support, and that's kind of cool. So we're going to go ahead and click next because I really want this thing. And we get our time cost again and filament cost again. They kind of want to put this out in front of you so you can know what it is that you're doing. Now we have selected parts to print. That's this next section right here. And when you click on that, it's going to show you the build plate. Hey, this is where they're positioned on the build plate. And if you want to exclude something from being printed, you have an opportunity here. So down here in the lower right-hand corner is the knob. And let's say I don't want to print the knob because I've already got the knob printed. I can select it and it will not have that neat little coloring. But I do want to print the knob because it's an important part to holding this thing together, and without it, it's not much of use. So hit confirm. Now, what printer do I want to use? So it will reflect all the printers that you have registered to your account in Bambu Labs. And on this one, I want to use, let's go Sirius Black. Now, you also have a 3D preview, which kind of shows you the same thing that was on your build plate, but then you can flip it around like you can in Bambu Studio, which doesn't really help much. Now, I have enabled AMS, which means that I can pull from my AMS unit. Now, it's looking for PLA right here, but you know what? I don't have that color loaded in that AMS, so I want to change it. So I'm going to tap. Unmatched filament is going to give you that warning. Hey, you don't have the filament on that particular printer, so go ahead and select something else. I'm going to do it in green. Yay, select the filament to match, and then confirm. Now, how many copies on the build plate? That build plate's kind of full, so you really don't want to print anymore else or anything else on that one. Now, above that is this little item here. Use my filament presets. Now, if you're like me, you have kind of edited your filaments to your desired settings. And me, if it's pet G, I really don't want to have the fan on. So I have this pet G HF, no fans. And I'm going to select that because then it'll turn the fans on. And I think I get better, cleaner prints. Your mileage may vary. You might want your fans on. Depends on where you live, depends on the humidity in your area, depends on your printer. Now, I always like to check bed leveling down here at the bottom because to me, I think it helps ensure that you're going to have a better print because you know your bed's going to be level before things actually start and all the fun begins. So we want this one. You can also set your time lapse here if you want to as well. So we're going to click Start Print. And guess what's going to happen? It's going to send the print job. Now, because this is a phone, it's going to slice the print in the cloud. So you can see that slicing 94%. Now, I have been behind other people in the cloud slicing, and it'll be like, hey, you're 1 of 4. You know, it tells me where I am in line. And I've had it to take 2 or 3 minutes to actually do the slicing in Bambu's cloud and then begin to download. This one actually went pretty quick, which is kind of nice and cool. But while it's doing that, let's take a look at this printer section here. We have our print head, we have our bed temperature level, we also have our fan speed. So I'm going to click on View All here. And we see our nozzle starting to heat up. It's up to 76 degrees, which, you know, maybe that's where we want it. Our speed is 100%. Our heat bed is at 55 degrees, which needs to heat up a little further. And you can control your light from here. You can turn it on and off. And if you really want to have granular control over your fan, you can choose to turn on the part fan, the auxiliary fan, or the chamber fan, depending on the model of printer that you have. With the P1S, you have all these options. So you can set the speed and you can turn it on or off if you want to. Me, I prefer to have them off. Now, if you look at the nozzle extruder, you have another little more button. Always press on those more buttons because there's more. That's what you want to look at. So here you can actually, like, if you wanted to manually, if it wasn't printing already, you can do some of these things. You can choose your nozzle temperature. You can choose your nozzle material, which is your nozzle, like you have a stainless steel or the hardened steel nozzle that you can choose. And then also the size. So if you have different sizes, you can change it from the Handy app at this particular point. But we're starting to print, so it's not going to let us right now. Now, also up here at the very top, we had the X, Y, and Z. And if we weren't printing, we could play around with the X, Y, and Z. This is the same thing that you're going to see in Bambu Studio. And it's got the same effect as Bambu Studio. So there's a lot of things that have crossover between the two applications. But there is one thing that you can do in Bambu Handy app that you cannot do in Bambu Studio. And that is this little skip right here. Now I find this skip invaluable, so I like to use my Bambu Handy app to control my prints because if one of the models on the bed starts to go haywire, starts to look weird, starts to sling around and start to affect the other printers or other models on the bed, I can exclude that. Remember that knob that I was playing with before? I can actually say, hey, it's messing up, it's doing its own thing, it's not minding, it's not obeying the nozzle that I put on there, and it's gonna sling around and start damaging all my other prints, waste my time and my filament. Don't need that. So you can actually exclude that model on that plate while the print is in process. Again, lots of P's. This you cannot do in Bambu Studio, but it will save you time. It will save you filament, which in turn saves you money and frustration. Then you can go back and print that particular one again using the other process where you can exclude the other parts and print just that one. But I do want that one, so I'm going to leave it there. Now, we've looked at the printer. We've looked at the print options, but now, because I do have an AMS, and I have one AMS instead of 4, because it looks like it will list all the AMSs right there because I have one. Can't afford more than one for each of my printers, but I guess I could combine them all onto one printer and then just print one color on the rest, but I don't want to do that. We'll click on View All. Now this is kind of an interesting thing because it will show you your external spool if you have one attached or if you have it configured. Sometimes it'll show you one that's there that's not there because the one has been configured before. You can just pretty much ignore that. This is a good reminder too. You want to visually inspect your printer before you start sending jobs to the Handy app, or at least know exactly what your state your printer is in and what build plate you have. Because if you don't do that, chaos will ensue. Now, another interesting thing is this little number right here. This is a guesstimate of the relative humidity inside the AMS unit. Sometimes low, sometimes high. 20%, that seems reasonable. I have some that go up to 40%. I'm not sure why, but I know I do need to change the desiccant in some of my AMS units and dry it. And I'll probably have that in another video how I do that. But here you can see all of your filaments. And this one has blue, green, and 2 blacks. Hence the name Sirius Black. So that's kind of a rundown here because you can also pause and stop, which of course you probably already knew that just because it says pause and stop. But what else can you do with a Handy app? So we have these little hamburgers up here, or little hamburger menu items, what my wife calls it when she's teaching people how to use the internet in various interfaces. So we're going to tap on that. Hey, you're going to see things that you would normally see in the Bambu Studio as well. So like Machine Assistant. So the different different messages that you get from the printer when things mess up, when the spools start to change color. You can also do calibration. So you can set your calibration here and send it to the printer from the Handy app. And then print options, which you always want to have the auto recover from step loss, just so you get nice clean prints. Then the AMS settings, you can set that directly from here as well. Kind of cool. Uh-oh, I have an error. Oh no, what is going on here? Machine Assistant, this is a good place to see. The build plate may not be properly placed. This message appears repeatedly. Check the wiki for more explanations. And so my Z-axis homing failed. The task has been stopped. And I can check the solution from here. But I'm going to go back to that later because I want to show you some of these other things that you can do. Now, say you have printed something and send it to the printer. But you want to print again. And this is what's kind of cool. You can go to the micro SD card and it should load time lapses, which I need to clear that off my card, save space. But you can also click on models and you can see the models that have been sent to that printer before. Now you can do the same thing in the Bambu Studio app, but you can do this right for your phone. Now the cool thing about this is it will print from the card so you don't have to slice it again. Save you some time. Then you can also change the device name here, which is also use the handy app to set the device in the first place, so that makes sense. And firmware. And this printer needs a firmware update, but do I want to do that right now? Nope. I will wait until I'm done printing the things that I want to print. And check what other people are doing. There's also an option to do the beta updates, and I don't recommend new users do any beta. Actually, I kind of recommend most users don't do beta. Let the seasoned users do it because it can be frustrating and fairly technical and over a lot of people's heads. And that's not why you bought a Bambu printer. You bought a Bambu printer for simplicity. Now, what else can you do? So we have this little me icon down here. And that is all about you and your printer. Not necessarily your printer so much, but mostly about you and the way you interact with Bambu in the cloud. So we have printing history. Now, much like looking at the build plate or the SD card on your printer, you can see your printing history. Also can do this in Bambu Studio. Now, the interesting thing is you can say, hey, I want to take a look at this. And you can also print again. Now, this will take it back up to the cloud. It will slice in the cloud and it'll download to your printer, which you may or may not want to do. But if you know where it is on an SD card, you can do that. Now, you can also look at account security. So if you want to change your password, this is a great place to do it. And also the two-step verification, I heartily recommend that you do this because it'll protect your account, it'll protect your printer, protect your computer, and lead to a lot less frustration, even though it's a little frustrating to begin with. Because, it's like, hey, we're going to send you a code. Hey, we're going to send you an email. But that's just the world we live in right now. And then various other settings, so your language, your theme, your homepage, privacy settings, all these other kind of things that can be set from here. And most people don't really need that because they set that up at the beginning. But what else can you do? So you can see, here are the likes. So if you like something and can't remember if you liked it, you can come back here and look at your likes, which you must not have liked it that much. Your collections, your uploads, your ratings, if you've uploaded anything, that's kind of cool. If not, hey, it's empty. You also look at your homepage. Your homepage is, like mine, not going to have much on it because I really don't do much with the Bambu Studio in the cloud, and except for printing. So there's all kinds of neat things you can do here. And you can actually look at this very important piece right here. Points and boosts. Now you've probably received emails that you've received boost tokens. Boost tokens are a great way to thank the designers who have uploaded these STLs onto Bambu Cloud and Maker World for free for you to download for free and print for only the cost of your electricity and your printer and filament. And some of these are really complex and they have a lot of beauty to them. So if you're looking at activities and looking at points, let's start with the boost though. So if you have the boost, you have boost tokens. You can see all the boost tokens. Now the other thing that's interesting is these boost tokens come with an expiration. So if you downloaded a model, you printed a model, and you like the model, go back and boost the designer of the model. It's just a neat way of saying thank you. Because what happens is Bambu has like a virtual gift card for that particular designer, and it will add $1 for every boost to that gift card, which they can redeem for filament, they can redeem for parts. And some have even saved up enough to buy a brand new H2D printer. I'm a little jealous, actually a lot jealous. Kind of expensive, out of my range, but still looks so sweet. Anyway, but let's go back and look at the points. Now, the points are kind of interesting because you can redeem these points for things that are in the Bambu lab, the Maker lab. Some of those nice little functions that they have up there take points. And you earn points by actually reviewing models, by boosting models, by actually, on the review part, if you upload a video or a picture with your review, you actually earn more points. And then you can redeem them for different things in the Maker Lab. Yeah, it's kind of cool. Another way of Bambu saying, hey, we've got fun things for you to do, and we're going to reward you for helping other people out. And that's also nice. So, what else do we have here? We have notifications up here, and that's going to be notification from Bambu as well as your print job notifications. And you can adjust those notifications in settings. I believe that's where the notifications are. So you have notification settings. You say push notifications. If you want to change that, you can do that here. But you can also change it for like successful prints. You can turn that on and off in these. You can also say comments or ratings, things like that. So these things are normally not what you would see on Bambu Studio, but you can see them in the Handy app. You got to really dig for them in the studio. So going back to models, we have models, let's say the phone pseudo holographic projection, something or other. Looks kind of cool. I don't know what it is. Ooh, hey, that's nice. Not sure how that works. But what we're going to look at here is, oh, this one doesn't have it. There's in other words, like if you like my model, give me a boost. And that's where you would do that. And you would spend one of your boosts on that particular model. Now, if you like it, you can leave a review and earn points that you can spend other places. So that's kind of the Bambu Handy app in a nutshell, kind of a large nutshell, and I went pretty quick. But explore this on your own and see what you can do, what you like. And if I've missed something, be sure to put it down in the comments below. Because, I go through these things and sometimes I miss things because, well, I'm in a hurry. I think we all are. And we bought Bambu Lab printers because we're in a hurry. We want to spend time printing and designing, making things that are kind of cool. So we've taken a look at the Handy app. You can see some things that we can do with the Handy app. And the one thing that you can't do with Bambu Studio that you can do in the Handy app that's really cool. So until next time, print something joyful, print something beautiful, print something that makes you smile. And also, Bambu on.